This book had more drama than EastEnders. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alice. We talk about books. We sometimes do some vlog and lifestyle content, and we also can actually say that because there is a vlog on my channel. Go watch it, please. Thank you. So if you're looking for someone to stick on in the background while you make yourself a meal, clean your room, do that thing you've been wanting to do that you've been putting off for the longest time, then I'm your gal. So consider hitting that subscribe button. Come on in, join the family. It is free. You can unsubscribe at any time. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. Let's get on with today's video. This video should be titled Alice in Vietnam talking about a romance with the aircon off, trying not to sweat, see how she can do. There you go. New title, folks. Okay, so obviously, as you can see, this is not the cover of the book. This is just the look. This is just the Kindle. Sorry, gosh, what's going on with me? Silly gal, silly gal. I read this book here. Oh, some spoilers. Here, see it? This one? Yep. I read that one. It was my first Abby Jimenez. I, popped the cherry, lost the V card. Let's talk about it. Bring on in the trusty steed. One day I will tell you about these dents. Look, get a nice. Oh, okay. Oh, my laptop's a bit dirty, sorry. Girl, you're shining. Today's not that day, I do apologise. So, let's talk about it. Okay, I gave this book a 6 out of 10. Thinking about it now, I'm not really sure. That might be a little bit of an overestimation. I was quite into it at the time. Don't get me wrong, I loved Abby Jimenez's writing actually. She was a great writer. So I feel like she does kind of deserve a 6. Maybe the overall put together 5.5. I think that sounds about right. So that was about 3 stars. Pretty good, pretty average romance score. It can be hard to achieve those higher scores in the romance genre, but it's okay, it's all right. Okay. For the spice, I gave it a 0.5, all right? There was a little, there were some bits in there, okay? Shenanigans were depicted, but they weren't particularly spicy compared to some of the other things I read. Like, on the whole, it was pretty tame, I'd say. There was definitely, some bits and bobs going on, but nothing too wild, all right? So I feel like you'd be okay. Now, the problem is this book does come with a warning, but it's not on the spice front, as you would probably think. This actually is a book that you absolutely should read the trigger warnings before, because there is so much emotional trauma, everything to unpack in this book. There's so much going on, so many things, and it's a lot. Okay, so it might not be for everyone, and that's okay. Please, please, please always check the trigger warnings before reading any book. We want happy and safe readers out there. So, if you've been thinking about this book, you're not too sure, and you're also not too sure if you want to hear more about this book, then please go check the warnings now and do what's best for you. Okay, as always in these reviews, I don't go into a super amount of depth, so I won't tell you everything that happened, but there can be spoilers, and there's definitely themes discussed. So, if you are planning on reading it and you haven't quite got around to it yet, this might not be the video for you. Don't worry, there's loads of other videos on my channel. You go watch them first, come back around to this one, all right? Thank you for continuing watching. Let's carry on. If asked, recommend. I'm dropping a lot of words in my sentences today. I don't know why. It's really weird. If asked would I recommend this book, I said yes. I thought on the whole it was actually quite a good book. For a romance, summer read, or just a general romance read at some point during the year like I did in February, I think it was a good read. I would say, yeah, give it a go. Are we ready for the review, guys? Are we ready? Buckle in, seatbelts on, strap in, because away we go. I said, I really enjoyed this book. I loved the style of writing that the author had. She definitely kept you keen and eager to read. It was actually kind of an interesting read when I think about it, because it was so easy and so chill to read, but the stuff that was happening on the pages was like a complete juxtaposition to that. Like, it was super intense, and loads of, as I said, loads of trauma coming out, lots of emotional issues. At the same time, it was so easy to read because of her writing style. So it was a really odd feeling. It was like very conflicting, and I definitely, I had a few emotional moments with some of the characters, so that shows great character connection. I was very confused. Let me know if you've read this book and you've got the same thing, or if you've read other things by Abby Jimenez and that's reoccurring for her. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience, I would say. It was a nice amount of romance, and I thought the concept was quite unique. That was actually one of the reasons I chose to read it. It might also be because they were doing a Kindle book sale, and it's on sale for 99p. That's where most of my Kindle books end up from. I mean, no shame in it. you know, we got to love a sale, all right? We got to love a sale. I actually started reading this book ages ago on the train, like when I was just commuting to random places. So if I was going to stay with my friend, or if I was just heading up to London one day, then I would read it on the train. And I was probably about 20% through, but it was like enough that like I could remember the story. And then I came here and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna carry it on. I'm gonna carry it on. And then I got really into it. So, you know, it was a good time. Quite easy to follow along. I feel like the main thing I got from this is that based on this book, I would be keen to read another Abby Jimenez book. Now, with some of the super popular authors, I don't always get that vibe. So as we know on this channel, beep, 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 beep. Sorry, you might hear a lot of that. That happens a lot in Vietnam, okay? For example, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Colleen Hoover. I'm not the biggest fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid. That's okay. Okay, that's okay. Now, that would mean that when I've read some of their books, I don't necessarily want to keep reading, even though they're super popular books. But with Abby Jimenez, I feel like I would. I feel like I would read more of her stuff. So if you've got any recommendations, let me know. I'm kind of thinking, based off this book, of going into the part of your world bit, because that kind of adds to this universe. So I do enjoy it when that happens. So maybe that could be cool. What do you think? I mean, I will have to wait until it's on sale. I don't know if I'd pay full price for it. We'll have to see, but let me know. Let me know what you think about that. Although I enjoyed this book, as always, there are a few downsides to it. I don't know if downsides is the right word, you know, don't want to be a hater. But there's some things about the book that weren't my favourite. They definitely lowered the score. I know I am harsher on romances. It's because I love them so much and I've read so many of them. So, you know, it gets harder and harder to compare them. But there were a couple of things. The main thing was that I actually did feel like this book was a lot. Like, it definitely hit a point where I was like, whew. And, you know, I had shed a few tears. I had a few emotions, a few welling up times. And, you know, I was reading this a lot of the time in the caf. So this was quite hard to kind of sit there and be like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. That kind of thing. And I love that. I love that I had that connection to the book. But it was a lot sometimes. It was. You know, I've kind of joked about it and said, you know, she's great and easy reading. But the actual content is a lot, okay, guys? I know I've said it like 500 times, but be warned. It is a lot. This also then left me sometimes with some of the heaviness after reading, and I think that's one thing that I definitely deduct from, in terms of, it's great that they've made you feel that for the character, but I don't know, do we want to be reading a book and coming away and having this like heaviness on your shoulder, like feeling this emotion, anxiety, weird headspace? And I don't know if that's just me, okay guys, I don't want to be like that guy, but I am a textbook empath, okay? So I do carry other people's feelings with me, so maybe it's a me problem, not a book problem. But yeah, I definitely came away afterwards sometimes that it did feel very, very heavy, so it did make the experience a little bit less enjoyable than I would have liked. It also just got to a point where there was like almost too much going on, like the fact that he had this whole big change in her life, she had this whole big stuff going on in life, and then there was a whole nother element with family and stuff, and it just kept going and going and going, and I was like, when will it end? It was a lot, and it definitely went from 0 to 100, okay? That's the quote of the day today. It was a lot. I know that obviously this was a story, but through her writing, sometimes I really got this vibe like these characters felt really real, and they felt like they could be real, relatable people, and that kind of felt like quite special in a way. And then these crazy things would happen and I'd kind of be taken out of that, and that was a little bit destroyed for me. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't mean it relatable in terms of the things they've suffered, but just they felt like these real characters having to deal with problems that exist in the real world. And I just think that sometimes then these crazy things happen and kind of took away from that a little bit, just a little bit, okay? I'm definitely not hating on this book. I loved it a lot, but there were things I didn't like. Okay, let me know what you thought of this book in the comments down below. Hear me out here, guys. This is gonna sound really bad, but follow my train of thought. I thought it was really clever how Abby Jimenez depicted Emma's emotional trauma, and I know that sounds like a big statement, but I feel like she really encapsulated that feeling of, so she uses the term kind of like she makes herself small, she feels small and kind of has to withdraw from everything. And I thought that was a really clever way to try to describe a way that obviously not everybody would feel or react this way, but you know, something that maybe people could relate to a little bit and understand, but also, you know, it was her own thing at the same time, and you very much felt that, and you kind of like let her have that space as well as the reader. And I just thought it was really, really clever how she did that, and I thought that's quite tricky. Like, you could definitely just throw loads of intense messed up shit happening and be like, well, it's a story, it's fine. But I feel like she did it in a very, I don't know if delicate's the right word, but she did it in a, what I would sort of see as a delicate way, if that makes sense. She also definitely reflected on some very important morals as well that I think that, you know, people could definitely find some resonance in, especially the message of kind of like needing to face your problems and that you can never run from yourself. And I thought that was quite a good message, and she kind of used the best friend character to enforce a lot of those morals and boundaries that Emma needed to find herself. So the author used that character in that way. I definitely feel like the whole family bit was quite random. Like, I feel like it was a shame because I felt like she definitely did it to make you hate the character of Amber, and that's okay because we hated her before that anyway, and this just kind of like cherry on top. But I feel like she kind of did that to justify that there was like no way back, and that was kind of like the final straw for Emma not to have this empathy towards her anymore. Well, that's wrong. She still did have empathy towards her, but she didn't like kind of let things slide. I don't know. I feel like that was definitely put in there for that point. I don't know if it was a little bit too much, especially with the fact of them being like, oh, sorry, your grandparents aren't alive anymore, and all things like that. Like, it was like almost too much emotional trauma, you know? I feel like we could have been a little bit nicer on that front, just a little bit, Abby, okay? I feel like it was a bit intense there. It was kind of nice though, and again, clever in her writing. I mean, just for me anyway, like a little part of me hoped for Emma that Amber would sort herself out, and you kind of felt your hope slip as Emma's hope slipped, and I thought that was good because you had that connection to the character, and that's quite hard to achieve. Great stuff all around. But I definitely feel that by the time that she lost hope, as the reader, you just kind of straight up hated Amber, but she wasn't quite there yet. So I do feel like by the time we got to that, Emma kind of had to catch up with you. But you know, it did work well. My other tiny thing, I say tiny thing, these are all tiny things added together, but Justin definitely was a little bit too simpy sometimes, like a bit too much, a bit too wet wipey. It kind of made me lose a bit of credibility with him sometimes, because then I'd be like, oh, he's not real. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd kind of be like, oh yeah, cute, wholesome, we love Justin. Oh, he's not real. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, you lost that touch with him. So I feel like he could have had a few little more, let's say, interesting moments where he didn't do exactly what was expected of him. But on the whole, he was a pretty great character. You know, he kind of looked after everyone, took care of everyone. So good job. He definitely was a sweetie. And all in all, I would say it was worth the read. So what are you doing? Go get Just for the Summer, sorry. If you've got it on a shelf, you've been meaning to read it, or if it goes on sale again, get it for your Kindle, get reading, let me know what you think. All right, well, without further ado, thank you so much for watching. I've definitely rambled on long enough today. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Have you subscribed? Thank you very much. And as always, until the next one, I'll see you then. Bye. Did she do it? Yeah, hold on. I don't even think it would have been that loud, you know. She's got a little horn.